Okay, so welcome everybody. This is just a Q&A session about placenta encapsulation and placenta remedies. Any questions that you have, feel free to ask them. I'm going to introduce myself, obviously, and I'm going to introduce Victoria, and then I'll get rid of the slides and things, we'll get started. So before I start, just to say that if you have any medical concerns about your pregnancy, please speak to your midwife or GP. This session isn't a replacement for professional medical advice. And also just to let you know that the session is being recorded, so feel free to take your switch your video off if you don't want to be filmed. If you have any questions that you want to submit anonymously, then submit them through the chat. So a little bit about me. I'm Erin. I'm a mum of 3. I've got 2 girls who are 5 and almost 8, and a boy who's 1 year old. And I had 3 very different births, going from very medicalised with the first one all the way through to a home water birth with my 1 year old. So I've experienced lots of different births and lots of different things. That kind of led me to becoming a hypnobirthing instructor. So I teach hypnobirthing courses currently over Zoom, but ideally I'd like to be teaching them face to face, because I miss interacting with people face to face. But yeah, so I teach a Little Birth Company hypnobirthing courses, and that's like an antenatal and hypnobirthing course that I teach. And I met Victoria when I had my placenta encapsulated with my last birth. And that was because my first birth was quite traumatic, and I had a lot of postnatal depression after my first birth. And then with the second birth, I had baby blues as well, and a lot of anxiety. And I was desperate to do something, anything really, to avoid getting those baby blues and postnatal depression again. So I reached out to Victoria about the placenta remedies, and now I sing it from the rooftops that everybody should do it because it's amazing. Vicky, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yep, so my name's Victoria, and oh, you've written a nice spiel about me. This is taken from the Placenta Remedies network that I'm a part of. But as you can see, I'm a nurse, I'm a midwife, and I ventured into the placenta encapsulation world after I had quite bad postnatal depression with my first son. And even though being a midwife, I didn't click on at all that it was postnatal depression until he was about 1 year old, actually, and I went back to work and realised that actually it wasn't quite normal. And then I heard lots of people doing placenta encapsulation, so I did it with my second. And as Erin said, I'm exactly the same, singing it from the rooftops, and was absolutely hooked. So I'm doing this now to help other mothers and just spread the word, really. If it works, it works. So why not? Why shouldn't everyone do it?
So what I wanted to do was open it up to anybody that's got any specific questions to Victoria. Does anybody have any questions to kick off?
I'm happy to ask my question.
Go ahead.
So I am pregnant and I am considering placenta encapsulation, but I think a lot of my hesitation is that there isn't scientific co-evidence, and even as I'm listening to your testimonies, you're like the two, and so it's like, how about, would that work for me? Because if it works for you, it doesn't necessarily mean it will work for me. But I really want to invest in it, but I'm just trying to find reasons why.
Yeah, there is scientific evidence out there. Don't look at the American CDC type evidence, because in America it's not regulated, so they don't have any guidelines when they're encapsulating the placentas. They don't have to get it up to certain temperatures, whereas here we're regulated by environmental health. So we're basically classed as like a private food chef is how it's termed. And we do have strict guidelines. And as I said previously, I'm part of the Placenta Remedies network. So that also ensures that I stick to and adhere to those guidelines. So we have to make sure that the placenta is steamed or dehydrated to a certain temperature. When we pick the placenta up, I will go through it a bit more in detail later, but when we pick the placenta up, we have to scan it with a temperature probe. If it's not at the right temperature, we don't take it. Touch wood. I've never had to do that. People, mums and partners are invested in this, so they make sure everything goes quite smoothly. But we have to be stringent because it's an organ that we're playing around with. It can harbour bacteria if things aren't done correctly, so it is quite important. So if you're looking for research, look for UK-based research. There are quite a few studies out there that tell you the pros and the cons to both placenta encapsulation. A lot of the studies we try and do, especially with the Placenta Remedies Network, is women's views, their feedback, how they felt. So we do try and get a lot of it that way, because that does mean quite a lot to other women. They like to know people's views. Personally, I've only had one lady who was a midwife I was working with, actually. She had capsules, and she got really bad headaches when she took her capsules. So then I asked her before, have you ever been on any form of contraception? And she said no, she can't have any form of contraception because it gave her headaches. So that was a big learning curve for me, and I do now put that in all my emails to say, you know, if you are sensitive to hormones, that is something that you need to think about, because your placenta is full of all your hormones. It's full of estrogen, it's full of progesterone, exactly what you normally have on the pill. So that's the only negative report I've ever got back. And bless her, she just stopped taking the capsules for a while, and then started taking them. We normally recommend 6 a day, so she just took 1 a day, and that did help her. But yeah, that's the only side I've heard at the moment. But yeah, do look up the research. I can see if I can find any of the links for you, if that helps. But yeah, it's definitely good to do your research. It's good to talk to other people as well. See if go on forums, see if anyone else has had it done and what their feedback is. Now, people say to me, how do you know it works? Is it a placebo effect? Where, yes, it absolutely could be. But for me, I didn't know much about placenta encapsulation when I had mine done. So I had it done. I gave it 2 weeks, and I thought to myself, if they're not working, it's a bit of a waste of money. So I stopped taking them. And within 24 hours, I was back to feeling a bit blue. Feeding was starting to annoy me because, you know, you're up all night. So my husband said to me, do you think it might be those capsules? Why don't you start taking them again? So I started taking them again. And within 24 hours, I was back to being really happy self. I left the house, which was a massive deal for me. And my second son is just so much happier in himself. Even now, he's a different child. I think it's because I was just less anxious. That could be second time mum thing, as lots of people say, but I absolutely swear by the pills, placebo effect or not, they've worked for me. So I think it's one of those things, you do your research and then you try and see if it works for you, and hopefully, fingers crossed it does. And I do, as you said, I do tell people every woman's different, every hormone's different. So what might work for one lady might not work for another. So you're absolutely right there. But sometimes I do think it's a little leap of faith you might have to take.
I kind of echo that, really. I mean, I started taking my placenta pills, and I wasn't sure if it was working or not, because you don't know until you kind of stop taking them. And I had an infection and had to stop taking them, because you can't take them when you have an infection or if you have a temperature fever. Yeah, straight away when I stopped taking them, my mood just plummeted. I really noticed it, and I couldn't wait to start taking them again, because I really felt different on not taking the pills. And I got, and Victoria will talk about the other kind of remedies that you can get aside from the placenta pills. But even now, a year later, I mean, I've got some placenta remedies that I still use if I'm having a hard day. Like I had a really rough day during lockdown where things were just really, really getting to me, and I was feeling really low. And I got some of my remedies out and took some of that in some water, and it really did pick my mood up. So I do think it works. And I guess the thing I would say with a lot of some of these kind of things that you choose to do either during pregnancy or after, is the likelihood of you regretting investing in something like placenta encapsulation and regretting it is low to non-existent, but the chances of you not investing in it and then regretting it can be quite high. So I would always advise and encourage women to try, if it's something that you want to avoid getting those baby blues, and you think you've got the budget to invest in it. I would encourage it, because I really do think it helps, whether it is a placebo effect or there's a genuine kind of physiological response. Yeah.
I do tell first-time mums as well, because first-time mums have no idea how they're going to react. So I always say to them, do give it a good 2 weeks and then just stop them. It's the only way you're going to know if they're working or not, if you feel any different. Whereas, second and subsequent mums, they will know that they feel different. But again, it's a different pregnancy. So if you do think, as I did, even myself, I was like, oh, what a waste of money, to be fair. And then I stopped taking them, and that is to what this day how I know that they did work. So it's trial and error, I would say. Yeah.
Does anybody else have any other questions? No? I've got a couple of questions that some people have sent through to me beforehand. So how are the placenta remedies prepared?
So every specialist works differently, but I would always give a placenta collection kit. And when I had my placenta encapsulated, I didn't get that. I had to buy everything myself, and it cost me about 50 quid in the end, so it's quite expensive. So I now give that as part of my package, for one, so you don't have to buy anything, and two, so I know the placenta's clean and safe when I come and collect it. When you're around 36, 37 weeks, I give a cool bag that has in it some gel ice packs, something to put the placenta in, some guidelines for the midwives, and a form that you need to fill out. Then I go, normally pre-COVID, I would come and visit you around 37 weeks, and we'd go through the bag, and I'd get you to pop the ice packs in the freezer straight away, because you never know when you're going to go into labour. And it's nice then, because I get to meet you and see you and have a face-to-face conversation, so you get that little bit of a bond who's going to be picking up the placenta. But as COVID's hit, I am having to send the bags out in the post, and then I'm giving women a call. So I have lost that little bit of what I used to think was my personal touch, because not all companies do that, and I do love having that personal touch. So Zoom's helped a little bit. So once you've got that, you go into labour. We normally set up a little WhatsApp group with yourself and your partner, because once you're in labour, I don't normally speak to you again. I normally speak to the partners, and bless them, they're normally more worried than anyone else, because they haven't got a clue. So we have a little chat. Some women message me once baby's arrived, or some women like to tell me throughout. As I am a qualified midwife and I do work full time at the moment, it is helpful for me if I know once you're in established labour, because then we can mess around with the timings. So once you've delivered, you'll give me a call. I will then come and pick up the placenta myself from whichever hospital you're at, as long as it's within my area. And then if I'm there within 4 hours, I don't have to scan it, because it has to reach below 8 degrees within 4 hours. So normally I'm quite quick and I come and collect it straight away. If it's over 4 hours, I will scan it to make sure, as I said previously, that it's under 8 degrees. Then I'll take that away in the cool bag. I have a little placenta, literally in this bit behind me, a little placenta lab in my house. And that has a placenta fridge and all my equipment in it. So what I tend to do is I tend to put my little ones to bed, because I don't like to be interrupted. And then I start your placenta straight away. Depending on which remedy you're having, and I'll go through the remedies afterwards, but if you're having your placenta steamed, I will wash the placenta in cold water. Then I will wrap it in parchment paper, so your placenta actually doesn't ever touch any of my equipment. It'll only ever touch parchment paper. So it goes into the parchment paper, into the steamer, and then it's steamed with green chili, ginger and lemon. That helps for your circulation. Once that's steamed, before it's finished, I have to check the temperature, and it has to be above 70 degrees for 2 full minutes. And then I get that out, then I slice the placenta up, and then I put that again on parchment paper in a dehydrator. Now, if it's steamed, it will dehydrate for between 14 and 16 hours. And I have they're like little temperature things, thermometers that go into the dehydrator. You don't have to have them, but I prefer, you know, could you imagine your worst nightmare coming downstairs and your dehydrator's turned off? So it does alarm if the temperature goes below what it should be, which is very helpful for my peace of mind, to be fair. So that normally then dehydrates all overnight. Then what we have to do is we snap the placenta. If it snaps, then it's fully dehydrated, so you haven't got any raw placenta in there at all. Once it snaps, it then goes into a NutriBullet. So I actually have better equipment for my placentas than I do in my actual house, because I don't have a NutriBullet for my food, but I do for my placentas. I have 2 actually. So that goes in my NutriBullet, and then it's blitzed up into like a fine powder. And then I have a little machine where I look like something out of Breaking Bad, because literally I have, prior to COVID, PPE personal protective equipment didn't used to be a thing, so I used to wear that all the time. Now COVID's here, it's just like, oh yeah, that's normal. So I do have on a full PPE throughout the whole process, and then I sit and put the capsules into the machine and fill it up with the placenta. Literally look like a bit of a druggie, actually. And then I put the capsules on, and then that goes into a jar here, and this is exactly what it looks like. This isn't someone's placenta. This is chocolate powder. Oh God, it's gone all over my laptop. So it smells a lot nicer, but that's exactly what you get, and that's exactly what it looks like. I use this for a baby show. It's nice to see what people get, and then you have your details on there, and you have all your guidelines on the back. If it's steamed, for me, you'll get one of these on top. So the non-steamed method is called the simple method. And again, I'll tell you the pros and cons and the difference afterwards. But that's you're just missing the steamed part. So I get the placenta, it's washed. You wash away any kind of blood clots or anything like that. And then it's sliced up straight away. And then that's put on the dehydrator. And that takes about 18 hours. It takes a lot longer. With that method, you're missing out your steam into 70 degrees. So therefore you have to get your dehydrator up to 70 degrees. And we do leave it up to 70 degrees for about an hour and a half. Just anything over 70 degrees will kill any bad bacteria on the placenta. So if you have GBS, group B strep, in your pregnancy, you can still have your placenta encapsulated, but you do have to have it steamed. It's just an extra precaution to get rid of any bad bacteria. If baby has a little poo on his or her way out, and it's called meconium, if there's any meconium in the fluid, we would have to encapsulate. As a midwife, meconium is what we class as sterile. It is sterile, but as a food business, meconium we wouldn't class as sterile, so we do have to steam it. So that's the kind of reason why we're steaming it. And then I follow the exact same process. It goes in the dehydrator, it comes out, then it's placed into the NutriBullet, and then it's placed into capsules. If you're having half and half method, so you can have your placenta half steamed and half raw, you literally slice the placenta up straight away after it's been washed. You half steam the placenta, so half of it is steamed, and then the other half of it is kept raw, and they are kept completely separate throughout the whole process. So the raw pieces of placenta will go on one tray, the steamed will go on another tray. They're kept separate. That's why I have 2 NutriBullets, because the whole process is completely separate. Although it's still your placenta, it's good to have them completely separated, because then you get the benefits that they definitely are. One is definitely steamed and one is definitely raw. And that's why I do have double of everything. I even have a double dehydrator just in case one breaks. So you've got to take precautions, but that's kind of how the capsules are done. Erin, do you want me to go through all the kind of other remedies that we
Yeah,
offer?
I think it would be helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's capsules. The benefits of the capsules are, you know, that they're full of hormones. So when you've had baby and your placenta's delivered, one, you lose a lot of blood, natural, or if you have a hemorrhage, you do lose a lot of blood. A lot of blood is stored in that placenta. A lot of hormones are stored in that placenta. So you've got your progesterone and estrogen, which your levels literally plummet as soon as you've had baby. Sorry, my husband's sneaking me. You have vitamins, minerals, you've got your B12 in there, your oxytocin hormone that's in there, everything that you just lose really quickly from your placenta. So having that, even though you're ingesting it, having that back in your body, sorry, you're right. Oh my God, my husband's saying stop saying and my friends text me saying stop saying Stop saying
Because he's subconscious.
thing. Oh, sorry. I can't help it. I did that in my wedding vows. Jesus. Oh, bless him. Sorry. Every time I say just someone goes stop. Can't stop it. I've lost my flow. He's ruined my flow. The benefits. I need to get my little Let me get my little card up. Oh, increased milk supply. Lots of see, I can't help it. Sorry. Lots of people say they get increased milk supply. Some women say they decrease their milk supply, but I personally think, coming from a midwife's view, that's how you're feeding. Sometimes if you haven't fed for a few hours, that can mess with your feeding supply. So personally, on a personal level, I don't think it affects your feeding supply.
Would your placenta have prolactin hormones in there as well?
I don't know about prolactin actually. Your body, yeah, because in pregnancy, I suppose it might do, because it softens everything up. So yeah, I would suggest that does come from the placenta. So
that could probably help with the milk production and helps the breastfeeding maybe.
And the I can't remember what the hormone's called. Something releasing factor. I'm trying to bring my breastfeeding back to me. Every time I say now, I get put off. Sorry, guys. So that's the kind of benefits to your capsules. The steamed method, we say, tends towards your emotional side, so really helps with your baby blues. And your simple method is a lot better for your, how do I say it, energy levels. So if you get a broccoli and you eat your broccoli raw, you're more likely to have all of those nutrients for that broccoli. Whereas if you steam your broccoli, you lose a tiny bit of those nutrients. But because we're steaming it with green chili, lemon and ginger, that helps with your circulation. Now, the downside to the steam method is that if you get an infection, you can't take those capsules because it will speed up your infection, because it helps your circulation. So it wouldn't do you any harm, but if you had a temperature, it'd probably make your temperature worse, if that makes any sense. So again, that's why lots of people tend to prefer the half and half, because the raw method, the simple method, doesn't do that. So you can take them the whole way through. You can have something else we call a tincture, which I am a massive fan of. So a tincture is a tiny thumb-sized piece of placenta. We steep it in 40 or 50% alcohol. So you could have vodka. Some people are allergic to vodka, so you could have brandy. And that steeps in a little jar for 6 weeks. And every day we have to literally twirl it. That releases all the hormones from your placenta. Then we strain that out. It goes through quite a distilled process actually. You strain it 2 or 3 times to make sure there's no placenta left in the what I call the remedy. And then, it says I'm about to find out, sorry. And then that goes into a jar like this. You normally get about 300 mils. And then you also get a little jar like this, which comes with a little pipette. And then what we recommend is 10 to 40 drops in some water. So in here, you don't have any raw placenta. You just left with the hormones. And literally, with my... Sorry, back to my tincture. So the remedy in the tincture is
something that will last you forever, basically, because it's how rescue remedies made, and because it has to be 40 or 50% vodka, that kills any bacteria in it, and that's really good for your kind of, again, PMT, anything kind of hormone related. I personally, when I've had a bit of if I get bad PMT and my husband's annoying me, I literally storm over to my cupboard, get my tincture out and take that, and it instantly calms me down. And on my Instagram page, you'll see, I woke up one morning, I had my Fitbit on, and I was feeling a bit stressed, and my pulse was 104. So I thought, oh, geez. So I thought, I wonder if my tincture helped. So I took a picture of my pulse at 104, and then I took my tincture, and then I took a picture a minute later. My pulse had gone down to, I think it was either 79 or 81.
Oh, wow, it's a huge difference.
Massive difference, instantly. So lots of people have said to me, do you think it's the vodka in it that does that? And I am personally, I'm allergic to vodka. I can't drink, like, I couldn't go out drinking vodka because it makes me violently sick. So it's a tiny bit of, your 10 to 40 drops is what you're putting in a large glass of water. So, or juice, whatever you prefer. It's not likely to be the vodka. And again, there have been studies done on tinctures and things like that. So I personally think it's amazing. Once the jar gets half full to about here, you then literally, whatever I've made it with, and it will say it on the jar, you top it up with 40 or 50% vodka, and that re-releases the hormones. You couldn't leave it till it was, you know, quite empty and then top it up, because it wouldn't be as strong. So my son's 3 now, so I've had mine for 3 years, and I've only ever topped it up once. I do use it quite a lot. So it can last you forever. It can last you to the menopause, and because it's in a strong vodka or alcohol, it can happily do that, which is quite good. Another remedy is what we call a mother essence, which is very good if you are choosing to have steamed capsules. And again, that's a bump-sized piece of placenta that we steep in distilled water for 4 hours in direct sunlight. Very tricky in the winter if there's no sun. We have to go hopping around the garden. That's quite entertaining. But that is basically a really mild tincture. So it's steeped for 4 hours. We then strain it off the same way we do with the tincture. Then we place it with 50% alcohol and 50% distilled water. So it's like a really mild version. And that will get you through if you're taking your capsules and you can't take them. If you get an infection, you can then use your essence, which is quite good. That we recommend. That's only lasts for 6 months. It doesn't have the shelf life that a tincture does. So that's why I always do also recommend the tincture. Good thing about the tincture is, like me, I just had my capsules done, and then I didn't have any other remedies. So I got to the end of my capsules and then started to panic because I thought, oh my gosh, they're running out. So I messaged my specialist and said, what else can I have? And she said, just save 6 of your capsules and she'll make me a tincture. So you can do your tincture from your capsules. It's not strong, but as I said, mine is the one I use today, and it works for me really well. So it is stronger to have it from your placenta, but it works just as well to have it from capsules. It's nice to know that's an option. I can't unfortunately do the essence that way. It is just the tincture, which is quite good. Other remedies we have are homeopathic remedies. If you're into your homeopathy, then we send just one of your capsules off to our homeopath. I don't do that myself. And then our homeopath does your remedies, one for yourself and one for baby. So for yourself, it's really good for me, really good for my asthma for some reason. This whole COVID thing and panicking and obviously working in a hospital and wearing the bloody face masks, my asthma got really bad. So my GP wanted to put me on steroids. And if I was to go on steroids, it means you can't be patient facing at work. So I took my homeopathic capsules and it cleared itself right up. So for me, that was a big hit. And again, they last forever. And she keeps a 1C copy for 5 years. So you can always go back for more. For baby, it helps for teething. They're just generally unsettled. When they're starting nursery, separation, I found they've been really good. They are in tiny, tiny little balls. So we wouldn't recommend giving them baby before 3 months. But after 3 months, I crushed them up and gave them with a little bit of water, especially teething and things like that. I found that really helped. So that's the kind of main remedies. Let me see if I've missed any out.
What about so lots of I think lots of women when they think about placenta remedies, they get eked out about raw placenta smoothies because they think that's kind of like the main option. Is that something that you offer?
I did used to offer, when I was on maternity leave, I did offer placenta smoothies, but we have to be with you within 4 hours because it is a raw piece of placenta, and it is very, very beneficial, placenta smoothies. But now COVID's hit, we really don't recommend doing a smoothie. We don't know what's going around. At least with the other remedies, there's a process of killing any bacteria. Whereas with a raw smoothie, we can't guarantee what's on your placenta. We can follow all the guidelines in the world, but now COVID's hit, I personally wouldn't recommend it. Prior to COVID, it's fascinating what your placenta can do. It has, if you're ever in the stick delivering a baby and the woman's having a hemorrhage, so she's bleeding a lot and you can't stop it, you can get a piece of her placenta and literally put it in between her gum and her cheek, and it will stop her bleeding.
Wow.
It's not something we'd ever have to do. Hopefully we've come a long way with
handy to know though.
It's handy to know, isn't that? It's my top tip of the day. So placenta's a powerful tool, but sadly now COVID's here, we don't know where that's going to go with smoothies, so we have to stay away until we know it's safe, unfortunately. But it's quite sad because lots of people, you can still choose to do it, it's your choice. You can chop your placenta up into little bits. It does need to be put with some fruit, some water, bottled water ideally, and blend that up, not milk or anything like that, that'll make it curdle. And that's how we would normally make a smoothie. We'd always have to have a separate blender for every person. You'd never reuse a blender. But I can't actually see us coming back from that, which is quite sad.
Yeah.
Denise,
you had a couple of questions you wanted to ask, didn't you?
Yeah, I was just curious about the raw placenta. How quickly do you have to consume it? Is it 4 hours? Because I think you just mentioned something about 4 hours with the raw smoothie.
Yes, a smoothie, it has to be made within 4 hours, but it's a bit like a normal smoothie. You need to consume it within 12 hours. So you can make your smoothie up, depending how big it is, and then consume that over 12 hours as long as you keep it in the fridge. If it's a really hot day like today, I would say consume it within 4 hours unless you're putting it back in the fridge. But you can, if you've got your entire placenta, you can chop it up into little bits and put it in your freezer. But to defrost it, you have to defrost it as you would a piece of chicken. It has to be defrosted in the fridge for 12 to 24 hours. It's not something you can just whack out and leave on the side, because you are at risk of getting bacteria on your placenta. So it can be done, but
okay.
there are guidelines to follow, and your specialist can talk you through that if it's something you are wanting to do yourself. But as I did say, be cautious with wonderful COVID-19 that's around at the moment.
Because I have strep B, and I was put on antibiotics, but speaking to my midwife, she told me most likely when I give birth I'll have to be on a drip, which is antibiotic. Would that affect anything? Will I be able to not?
No, you should be absolutely fine. Everyone who's got strep B will have antibiotics in labour. It's standard. That's just to stop any strep. So strep B is like a natural flora that we have. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. A bit like thrush. Sometimes it's there, sometimes not. Sometimes we have good bacteria, sometimes we have bad bacteria. So the antibiotics in labour are just a precaution to stop any bad bacteria going through to baby. So we would encourage you to have the steamed method because you are known to be group B strep positive, and it's just an extra precaution that we do to kill any bad bacteria that may be on the placenta. So you should be absolutely fine to still have your placenta encapsulated. It shouldn't be a problem at all.
Okay. And would you, in case you get any complications during birth, could you change what method you want sort of last minute?
Yeah,
I don't know.
When I come and pick up the placenta, we have a form and it says what remedies you want in there. But I've normally built up a bit of a rapport with my women before then, so they'd normally just message me and say, I've changed my mind, I want something completely different. Or often I've done it twice now, where a woman did half and half, and I've got the placenta, and the placenta's tiny, so I didn't. She would benefit from having half and half. So I've said, look, maybe you should just try and having one remedy, because she might lose the number of capsules she has. So we can definitely change it. The only time you can't change it is once I'm processing the placenta, or your specialist is processing the placenta, because it's too late then. It needed to, you can't, if you've got a raw placenta, you can't then go back and steam it. It would just ruin the placenta, and I don't think it'd be too safe, because you're messing away how the actual process is. Sorry, what's that?
Okay, yeah, thank you. Sorry, one last question. The capsules, how long do they usually last for? Is it months or weeks?
Depends what you want to do with them. So we do recommend about 6 weeks, but if you're like me, we recommend 2 capsules 3 times a day. So that's 6 capsules a day. If you're having the steam method, you get between 80 and 150 capsules. If you're using the raw method, you get between 100, and the most I've had is actually 430 capsules. That was a whopping placenta. So it completely depends on size of baby and size of placenta. And I recommend you take the 2-3 times a day for 2 weeks, see how you're feeling. And then I went down to 1 a day, because I wanted them to last as long as possible. And I made my capsules last for 9 months. So we do set an expiry date of 6 months. But as long as you follow the guidelines, you don't put your hand in the jar, because if your hands are wet, you can make them disintegrate. As long as you put the capsules onto the jar lid, and we have all these guidelines that we give you, and then you wash your hands before and after each time, you can make them last as long as you want to. But we have to advise you that they only last for 6 months.
Okay, lovely. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any other questions? No. So I've got another question that somebody submitted. So what kind of training and regulations are in place? Can anybody become a placenta encapsulation specialist, or are there kind of training and things that you need to?
Yeah, you have to obviously be trained. At the moment, only a doula or a midwife, someone who's had some placenta background knowledge, can become a specialist. That might change, but that's the guidelines to get on the course. That's the prerequisite that you need. And then it is a 1-day course with a fully trained specialist who specialises in the courses, and you go and you work with a real placenta and you go through all the remedies. It's a full day to do the actual technical side of it. Before that, you have to do there's about 3 exams that you have to do to know your placenta, and that's why it does help if you're a doula or a midwife, because you already know the placenta really well. And then once you've done those, you then go on once you've passed those, you then go on to the study day. And it's good, because otherwise, if you're just copying from a book, you don't know what it's supposed to smell like, what it's supposed to look like. You don't have that support network as well. So once you train with someone, you've got the option to join, as I keep mentioning, the Placenta Remedies network. And that's just where you have a group of specialists who work together. They don't work against each other, they all work together. There's loads of us around, so we'd never try and steal clients. We would cover each other when we're on holiday. And that's what I found really, when I first went into becoming a specialist, I found that really odd, because you think you're all in competition, but they're not. You're like a support network. You're all just trying to help women at the end of the day. So that's the main benefit of that. I keep saying it's really putting me off. I'm so sorry. Must be my so yeah, you do sadly have to be a doula. You can do your placenta yourself, but I really wouldn't recommend it. There are such strict guidelines, and you could get very poorly if it goes wrong, because you do have to stick to the limits and get the placenta up to the right temperature, and we have very strict guidelines in place, and they're there for a reason. You could get very, very sick very poorly if you don't stick to them. So I would say that.
I think that's all the questions that I had submitted. Does anybody have any other questions before we sign off? No.
No.
Okay, so thank you everybody. Thank you, Victoria. I think it's been really, really useful. Hopefully everyone else has found it really useful. It's interesting. I will contact everybody after the session with some more information and links to Victoria's Facebook page and social and website and so on. And if you do have think of any questions after this session that you didn't ask, then you can email me or contact Victoria directly to ask them. But otherwise, thank you for your time and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thanks, guys. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.